a million ways to acquire talent. As an example, they could develop an in-house team that sources that talent. They could use agencies. They could use online portals, Upwork as an example. They could use BPOs.
A big part of your enterprise value and what you offer to your existing business clients, as well as your terminal value, your exit value, is tied to your people. That's for sure true.
Where does the average CEO or founder fall down in understanding the intellectual property, the asset and equity creation, the enterprise value creation of the business is actually just people? And if you get that recipe right, usually, and intermixed with sales, the rest of it kind of follows suit. Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest. Adam, do you mind describing who you are, what you do, and how you serve the world?
Beautiful. Yeah, my name is Adam Kaplan. I'm a Certified EOS Implementer in Royal Oak, Michigan. And I also do executive recruiting.
Fantastic. Now, today is around talent management. And I've owned 3 agencies. First agency, 27 employees. Second agency, just shy of 20. Get Levrg, 100. And the expectation is we'll be somewhere between 300 and 500 people at scale. So now I have an HR team and a talent acquisition team of 3. And I can't tell you how much of the time, money, and energy of myself, the founder and CEO, is spent around talent. And I used to hear that conversation all the time, and I didn't get it because it's those especially that are thinking about scale. It becomes more than 50% of my week, and it starts at the beginning of my week. We run EOS. We have an L10 meeting with our HR team, service delivery, head of operations, and sales. We all come together to do basically a gap analysis and a kind of surplus or slack analysis of the talent we need at any given time. So the question for you is, you're inside hundreds of businesses all the time. And the question is, where does the average CEO or founder fall down in understanding that the intellectual property, the asset and equity creation, the enterprise value creation of the business is actually just people? And if you get that recipe right, usually, and intermixed with sales, the rest of it kind of follows suit.
It's great teeing up. I mean, that was awesome. The short answer is yes. A big part of your enterprise value and what you offer to your existing business clients, as well as your terminal value, your exit value, is tied to your people. That's for sure true. I would probably add that having great and sustainable processes that make it easier to plug and play new people who are the right people into your culture and who are clear on what's expected of them through the 5 major roles on the accountability chart is also a big add to what you just said.
Where do you find, though, the mental roadblock for a typical founder where a lot of times you've asked them to maybe be a visionary, but in day to day, they end up sinking themselves into what we call the $5 an hour tasks. They're just working in the business all day long. They're trying to sell more. They're trying to implement or do service delivery. They can't seem to get out of their own way. And then you've layered on, oh, by the way, you need to be thinking about the talent you have today, the talent you have tomorrow. You need to be able to build a sales funnel of talent known as talent acquisition. Do they look at you and they just shake their head? You're like, I don't have time for this, Where does it seem to sit on their priority stack of the average company?
Well, isn't that always their excuse?
Yeah.
So you said delegate, right? So it's delegate, elevate, automate, and eliminate. Just get stuff off your plate, Jamie. Like, that as the visionary, right? You've decided that having these conversations with other business coaches or consultants or advisors is upper right-hand quadrant, things you love to do and you're great at. Yeah, I mean, visionaries at the end of the day are going to do what they want. They want to be out there kissing babies. They want to be out there promoting the culture. My job as a coach, your integrator's job, other integrators' job, other leadership team member jobs is to make sure that they're spending their time on the 5 major roles where they're creating the greatest organizational impact.
Now, every company is different, but from a weighted average, now we're going from strategy to tactics, and you're giving them advice. There's a million ways to acquire talent. As an example, they could develop an in-house team that sources that talent. They could use agencies. They could use online portals. Upwork as an example. They could use BPOs. What across your customer base has been most successful long term to finding and attracting A players and retaining them?
Well, so you were talking about the tactics of how to actually do it. I would like to go before that and talk about, like, what do you need to know and what do you need to do to get great talent?
Yeah,
and the first thing you need to be 100% clear on is who are you and what's the culture that you have. Because when you're clear on that, you can like attracts like, and you can repel people who wouldn't fit. So that's number one. Number two, you also need to know specifically for each function, what are the 5 major roles of what the person needs to do. That's got to be 80% of their job. Once you have the culture, the core values, and the 5 major roles, that's really all you need in the job description. There's going to be a market.
The 5 major roles, could you just describe that for the audience?
Sure. So those are the 5 main things that the person's going to do in their job.
Yeah.
Okay. And the rest is kind of filler. I mean, the market's generally going to pay what the market's going to pay. Your best candidates are typically employed right now, and they're getting paid typically a market rate. And, maybe you'll pay a little bit more. Maybe if you have other things, you could pay a little bit less. But by and large, that's going to be it. And you need people who are on the pulse of what that looks like. It's not going to be a BPO out of India. I mean, you can pay $10 an hour, $20 an hour, $30 an hour for people to source candidates. And that could be don't get me wrong, that could be part of an overall strategy. But in terms of acquisition, it's really about knowing what you need. Start with that, and then find the people who can. If you can build that in internal capacity at 100 people, like you said, you have 3 HR people. That's probably close to the right amount, 2 to 3 people at that level. If you're a people-oriented business, which you are, service business, you need more HR than widgets. And then the question regarding HR is it strategic HR? Or is it really just kind of compliance HR? And to hire and recruit and also manage your best talent, you need more of a strategic component to HR than just someone who knows the laws.
And when you're seeking the team to start building out their org chart of the future, I'm a huge believer of Dan Sullivan's Solve for the Who's. I think it's called Who Not How.
Yeah.
The book, but the concept is start with the ELT team, start with your leadership team, and let them then source, the associates, the executors within their team that are going to do the work. From a founder's perspective, is that typically the course of action that you've set them on? Is you have a problem that sits at the end of a tentacle, like you have a marketing campaigns issue or you have a sales issue. Well, yes, it's typically SDRs and account executives that solve that, or, product marketers. But actually, if you come inward, closer to the octopus, so to speak, it's actually if you figure out the who around your ELT team, those people will then find the rest of the arms of the tentacle. What advice would you have there?
I like that. I mean, I think that's a great approach overall. Every person who's involved in talent acquisition needs to really be honest with themselves about what they're good at, what they know how to do, and where they need help, and overall the capabilities in the organization. So if you're trying to find a unicorn, you've never found it, you have a new service line that maybe you're in, The HR person's never found it. The ELT or the executive leadership team member has never had that role before, doesn't have a network. You might at least want to talk to some external parties who might help you get that.
Thus being using potentially the agency model. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flying the plane tactically, as we kind of, we typically, these podcasts will start strategic and dive into the tactics. Any commonalities of execution of best practices you're seeing across your customer base that the founder listening to this could say, okay, yeah, I probably do have a talent acquisition or management issue. What could I walk away with? A few nuggets of gold that could get me started.
Well, related to talent retention, let's just do a quick pivot to that. I believe that part of the system we teach you with EOS does a really good job of that. Okay, and then the concept is something called a quarterly conversation, where every 90 days the leader or the manager sits down with each of his or her direct reports, and they talk about core values. How did we do this quarter? 5 roles. How did we do this quarter? And our rocks, which are our priorities. How do we get them done or not done? So that conversation away from the office, casually, not being an HR moment, I think can be really powerful for building those bonds, getting clear on gaps, and solving going into the future. Once a year, do the official performance review. Definitely dot your I's and cross your T's from an HR standpoint, but definitely prioritize staying connected. If there's an area where my leaders tend to struggle, is it takes them longer than they should to really commit to this and to do this very well and have this be part of their cadence, because it seems like a lot of time and a lot of extra noise, but actually it's about keeping the dots connected.
Yeah. It actually happened today. So we run a monthly product innovation call. Account managers or portfolio managers, customer success managers, project managers, and obviously the product team all come on a call, and everyone is responsible for giving one product innovation idea, tip, trick, tactic to improve the business. And today we actually focused a lot on our project management software tool we roll out Monday to every customer. And we use Monday. So long of the short is a lot of times the gaps in talent are in between the lines of what people are saying. You know, there's challenges that are happening, escalation reports, whatever it might be. And we start to realize there's either an up-leveling or an upskilling. Sorry, we'll start with the upskilling. There's an upskilling, and if that doesn't work, then an up-leveling of certain talent in certain roles because of what's happening. And it's been really valuable of getting everybody, to your point, like everyone in the same room, each talking about an innovation that they would bring in, only to hear that we're missing that kind of talent in the room, or the people that are in the room don't understand it yet, and so they need to be upskilled. How do people get a hold of you if they want to know more about talent management? Where's your zone of genius from a focus standpoint? Is it in Michigan itself, or is it in certain verticals?
Most of my 30 years in business has been with service companies. And I do typically work with teams in Michigan, although I do travel selectively out. The best way to get a hold of me is just email me at adam.kaplan, Kaplan, at eosworldwide.com. EOS, the worldwide.com. I'd love to talk to you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being on Outsource to Profits.
Thanks, Jamie. It was fun.
Thank you. You take care.
You too.